Build that wall. Build that wall. Build that wall. Build that wall.
Trump wants to spend billions of taxpayer dollars to build that wall. But is it worth the cost? Welcome to America Uncovered. I'm Chris Chappell. It seems President Trump is not going to back down when it comes to building a wall along the U.S.-Mexico border. On Tuesday night, he addressed the nation.
This barrier is absolutely critical to border security. It's also what our professionals at the border want and need.
He stressed that it's critical to reducing illegal immigration, and even his predecessor would agree that's important.
We simply cannot allow people to pour into the United States undetected, undocumented, unchecked, and circumventing the line of people who are waiting patiently, diligently, and lawfully to become immigrants in this country.
You know, it's really nice to see how much Trump and Obama have in common. In fact, the Obama administration spent more than $27 billion on border security, including a whole bunch of border fences and wall segments. A year ago, Trump wanted Congress to approve $25 billion to expand border walls. But facing serious opposition over the budget, he eventually said he was willing to start with just over $5 billion to build the wall in the most critical 234 miles. Trump said on Tuesday that the border wall would pay for itself through reducing the flow of the illegal drugs across the southern border. It's true that large quantities of marijuana, meth, heroin, and fentanyl do come across the southern border. But it's very hard to calculate just how much impact Trump's proposed 234 miles of steel wall will have on determined drug traffickers. For example, according to Customs and Border Patrol data, most hard drugs enter the U.S. through legal border crossings, which is a whole nother issue. By the way, if you'd like us to do an episode on all the ways illegal drugs get into the U.S., let us know in the comments. But there's another way of looking at the border wall. Can building a wall using American taxpayer money pay for itself by directly saving taxpayer money? That's the million-dollar question. Actually, it's the $5 billion question. Okay, stop typing angry comments for a moment, because I'm not talking here about whether building a wall is a good idea or whether it's the best way to stop drugs or illegal immigration. I'm only asking whether the wall will pay for itself or if it's a giant waste of money. The Heritage Foundation, a conservative think tank, says the average illegal immigrant household receives a net of $14,000 in government benefits. Most of that is from programs that provide food, housing, and medical services. Now, illegal immigrants don't qualify for programs like Medicare and Social Security, but it's still quite easy to get other benefits, including food stamps and school lunches, without showing immigration status. This also factors in the cost of educating the children of illegal immigrants, some of whom are undocumented and some of whom are U.S. citizens. At any rate, according to these estimates, the average illegal immigrant household costs taxpayers $14,000 a year. Divide that by the average immigrant household size, and that's about $4,600 per person. Multiply that $4,600 over the course of 20 years, factoring in inflation, and it comes out to over $50,000. This is roughly how much the average cross-border illegal immigrant will cost U.S. taxpayers over the course of their lifetime. And it really adds up. Now, to be fair, that number doesn't factor in everything. It doesn't factor in the additional burden on law enforcement. It also doesn't include that the children born here to illegal immigrants will be entitled to more benefits, but also usually end up contributing more in taxes. These things are notoriously hard to estimate. It's also hard to find data on just illegal immigrants that doesn't lump all immigrants together. So, this $50,000 is a ballpark figure which we can use to calculate how many illegal immigrants a border wall would need to stop to pay for itself. A $5 billion wall divided by $50,000 per person equals 100,000 people. That means to pay for itself, a $5 billion wall would have to stop 100,000 people from ever getting into the U.S. A $25 billion wall would have to stop 500,000 people ever getting into the U.S. Considering that several million people have crossed the southern border illegally in the past decade, even 500,000 is only a small percentage. So, if the wall works, it will eventually pay for itself, simply by reducing the number of people who receive more in government subsidies than they contribute in taxes. But will a wall work to stop people from coming illegally? The vast majority of Border Patrol agents seem to agree, like this very passionate expert who was a Border Patrol agent for 21 years.
You hear a lot of talk that there are experts that say that walls don't work. I promise you that if you interview Border Patrol agents, they will tell you that walls work. I worked in Naco, Arizona for 10 years. We didn't have physical barriers in Naco, and illegal immigration and drug smuggling was absolutely out of control. We built those walls, those physical barriers, and illegal immigration dropped exponentially.
And a former Border Patrol chief under Obama, who was removed by the Trump administration, has also come out in support of a border wall. But can't illegal immigrants and drug smugglers just go around the wall and enter the U.S. elsewhere? Yes, quite possibly. But even if the wall stops just 1 out of every 5 illegal immigrants from ever entering the U.S., it will easily pay for itself within a decade. Now, there's a lot of reasons why a border wall can't be the only solution to dealing with illegal immigration. For example, 40+% of illegal immigrants enter the U.S. legally, but then overstay their visas. Which is why we should build a steel wall around the entire country to prevent planes from landing. What's that, Shelley? You're right, that is impractical. Planes can fly over walls. That's why we need a force field. I've always wanted to live in a Stephen King novel. But back to the border wall. Is it worth spending billions of dollars on a border wall that only partially works? The math says yes, it's still a pretty good deal for taxpayers. It's even better if Mexico pays for it, but I won't hold my breath. So, what do you think? Leave your comments below. And click that bell icon to turn on notifications so you can get an alert each time we publish a new episode. And remember, America Uncovered is supported mainly through direct support from viewers like you through Patreon. Click the link below to visit our Patreon page and contribute $1 or more per episode. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. Thanks for watching America Uncovered.